this is great because we're not only going to talk about what cybersecurity is, because I think there's different variations and meanings for what you guys hear, like on the news or on commercials or whatnot. So we're really going to delve into what cybersecurity is, how it affects our jobs and our lives, and hopefully we can enlighten you and persuade you to move into that career field. So without further ado, we'd like to do introductions, and since Maria is closest to me, she's going to go first. So Maria, take it away.
Hello. Is it hot in here, or is it just the stage? My name is Maria Bisaga, and I'm a privacy enthusiast as well as a software test engineer. And the reason why I'm so interested in data privacy is because tech is moving so fast all the time, and I feel like we haven't really stopped to think about the consequences of sharing our data. And I think that's super important, and it's about time we started asking questions and making changes.
And talk about your path to where you guys are to.
All right, you done. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here today. I'm Soledad Toledano. Well, I'm Soledad Antelada Toledano. Don't make fun of my name. It's too long. I work at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab as a cybersecurity engineer. I used to be a software developer for a long time, and I decided to switch to cybersecurity about 9 years ago. And I come from Spain. I moved to the US back in 2010, and I've been at the lab since 2011. I do basically cybersecurity operations, and my expertise is in penetration testing and incident response.
Hi, I'm Shannon Lietz. I'm the dinosaur up here, apparently. We've compared ages, which you never do, right? I've been in this industry for about 30 years, and I started out in security, tried to get away from it. I've got a degree in biomechanics. I also went to law school, all kinds of sordid paths, right? And I ended up back in this career field, foraging for berries as a security professional, where I wasn't always thought of as a thought leader, and to find myself among one of around 3% in this industry. And if you want to have a long career, ladies, there's plenty of opportunity here. In running a red team, it means that I like to go beyond penetration testing. We basically break into our workloads every day if we can, so that we prevent adversaries from doing so. If you can think about one of the funnest jobs you'll ever have, I have that job. And I have 40 people who work for me. I've been an advocate for women in cybersecurity for quite some time. I'm also the primary founder for DevSecOps. If you've heard of it, that was my buzzword, and I'm sorry. And then secondarily, I just started something called Hacker Girl, and my idea is that if we each bring 2 women to the field of cybersecurity, it will be a very full marketplace. And this is an area where if we start to do more research as women in this field, I will tell you it'll absolutely get better. So I'm super excited to be here today.
Awesome. So let's talk about what cybersecurity is, and before we get into that, know that it's now called cybersecurity, because we used to call it information security or IT, just security. Yeah. It was understood, but now cybersecurity is official. So what is cybersecurity to you guys? And Maria, if you could also talk about a little bit more about privacy. This is cybersecurity and privacy. Cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity. Oh, wait. You want to? No, you go first.
I'm going to be brief. Cybersecurity, for me, how I see it, is a field that is pretty complex. It's the field in tech that is formed by some other fields in tech, like system administration, for example, or developers and network engineers, and all of these people that work in different parts of the tech world, they normally are part of the security team. It's not just one field. I mean, it's like it's a security mindset, but the backgrounds are very different, right?
So what is the crux of cybersecurity? What does that mean to somebody that maybe doesn't know, except for the buzzword? Or it being a buzzword?
Oh, it's a buzzword too? I thought it was a whole field. I don't know. I got into it 30 years ago, before it was cybersecurity. So cybersecurity to me, and I think this is around definitions, is about chasing away bad guys and adversaries. I think we've focused a lot of our efforts over the last 20 years on compliance and some of those parts of the field. But truly, when we start thinking about where we're making the biggest needle move, it's around chasing away adversaries, figuring out who they are, being adversary obsessed. And cybersecurity is about making our software safe enough for our kids to use in the future. Otherwise, it's going away, and I don't want to see that happen. I think that we've got medical advances and things like that. So to me, truly, it's all these different disciplines that have kind of rolled up. Application security, you've heard about these things. Penetration testing, as we well know, is huge. Infrastructure security, security as code. You're probably hearing all of these capabilities out there. And what makes them interesting is that you're really becoming more adversary focused. Lots of the tools out there are really helping us to figure out more and more what's happening in our software and how it's being exploited and used.
And the other thing I want to point out that in cyber, as it's like there's a lot of technical roles, right? There's a lot of non-technical roles too. And one thing that I would like to point out that I was talking to Lisa just like 5 minutes away is like there's a lack of women in leadership in cybersecurity, so it's preventing us from getting there in a way that there are some of us that we're pushing from the base, but nobody's pulling. So I encourage people that is working more on the management things side of tech that to look into the cybersecurity world, because there's a lot of opportunities there, and there's a lot of need for women in that part.
I think it's the way women think that we're not saying women are better. Women think differently. So, we already had that whole diversity talk. But if you want to, and it's not even about the bottom line necessarily, right? It's finding solutions that people from different backgrounds and different experiences can come up with. And you're like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't even think about that. So that's what diversity brings. And of course, there's, an offset of the percentage of women in IT and cyber, even less in cyber. Maria, what's data privacy though?
Okay, I'm going to be bold with a statement, and this will actually bother these two a little bit. So I'm going to say that data privacy is the foundation of our democracy and our liberty. Big statement. Why? Shannon's sighing a little bit. Data privacy is very much rooted in our First and Fourth Amendments. So the right to free speech and the right to have our person and our property left unbothered. And just think about it this way: if you're under surveillance and people know what you're saying, what you're doing, that affects the relationships you have with people. That affects how you act. That even affects how you question the world. So how are you supposed to say things and question the world if you could be silenced or coerced by the government or things like that? So that's how that ties in with those amendments. And take a look, for example, at China, where data privacy is not very much of a thing. Like if you want toilet paper from a public restroom, you have to scan your face, and they have this national facial recognition system. And they also have cameras throughout cities, so it's hard to be anonymous in public spaces as you could have been 30, 40 years ago. Furthermore, China has this other thing coming out that's really bothering me. They have this social point system. So anything you say and you do impacts your points. And if your points are too low, then you could get privileges, or not even privileges, but things that you should have as a human being with equality, like sending your kids to the school that you want, or even leaving the country, or buying train tickets.
Okay, well said. Anything to add? Shannon.
Oh, sure. Yeah, don't get me on my privacy soapbox. We actually prepped for this for a couple of weeks, and we've had lots of opportunity to work together. I think privacy is such a big staple for what we do as individuals in this industry. I can't be more of a proponent, but I also know that there's some downsides to regulation that kind of goes over the top. As an example, one of the things that I think we kind of wrestled with was the recent addition of GDPR and what we're all really encountering with it. And, as a security professional who's hunting down bad guys, having things like GDPR cause us to lose a major source of threat intelligence, that actually gives away an adversary advantage. And that, to me, is where you really have to question how far do we go to balance both what people have as protections as well as how do we protect them from people who are trying to do bad stuff every day. I can tell you by upsetting that balance, we get equally as bad outcomes by people being able to be hunted down by adversaries that are leveraging the same privacy that we're fighting for against citizens every day. That makes it really difficult to protect you from things that, are actually pretty bad. Imagine getting a phone call from somebody who's going to exploit you. You don't even know how to trust them. Building trust online is very difficult, and the foundation of it is based on things like the domain name server, people registering for domain names, how we actually allocate technology. And to me, if we upset that foundation, we actually create a environment where adversaries can do things they shouldn't be able to do. So to me, I really kind of feel pretty passionate about this space. There's not a lot that gets me excited or upset every day, but I will tell you when I can't look up somebody's IP address properly and I can't look up who they might be or where they might be hiding and none of my tools work, that's a bad day. And it's especially a bad day for people and their outcomes. Imagine being a small business owner, a customer of some sort of software, and you're basically getting exploited, and there's nobody that can help you because we've created privacy regulations that really take it over the top. So I think that there's a lot of challenges ahead. I think that we're going to see a lot more adversaries out there doing things that we've been able to stop with some of our tools because we've seen things like privacy become a little bit over-regulated. So for me, I think that there's going to be an interesting reconciliation at some point. It's just the question is as to how long it's going to go on before people rise up and say, this is just too much.
Just pointing out like a couple things. One thing is I'm pro-privacy. Of course, I don't think anyone, even like people that work in cyber or anything, has a right to get their noses into people's private life data or whatever it is that they're doing, their location or whatever. It's like that's private. Second thing is that I think that intelligence in this kind of like environment, law, whatever, they don't give a crap about GDPR at all. So I don't think that's going to be a problem, in my opinion. And the third thing is, which I'm thinking that it's going to be a little bit counterproductive in a way that now, companies, especially corporations, they take a long time to disclosure, like data breaches, for example, right? Sometimes it takes like a couple years, right? It's not everybody says, hey, yeah, we got a data breach, like 200 million credit cards are out there, like right away. So on top of that, if you have a law that is telling you that not only your reputation is going to go bad and bad things are going to happen to your company, but on top of that, they're going to give you a ticket of $20 million. I don't know how much this is, 1% of your... The fines are very expensive, so I'm a little bit worried that companies are gonna start holding back that kind of information. So we'll see. Yeah, but I'm thinking about that kind of a scenario.
And one thing when we were planning for this talk that we struggled with was where's the balance between privacy and security? Because privacy oftentimes means that you're keeping your data and locking it down. But then security means that you're trying to get into people's data. So that's a really tough balance. And it definitely seems like recently there's been a strong trend of people not having a hold of their data and it being exploited by other companies. So I feel like the pendulum is quickly swinging to the other direction where we're trying to wrangle our data and keep it as close to us as possible.
So let's delve a little deeper into who you guys are. What do you do on a daily basis? Try to shed light on your specific roles. This is fun. They do fun stuff.
Sure, Sarah. Well, I do a couple things. I never do the same thing every day. So I can be like traveling like for a conference or a talk, or I'm doing like penetration testing, like a beast, trying to hack into people's computer. That's it. Trying to hack into everything connected to the network. So it can be your mobile phone, your laptop, or your desktop, whatever, a server, web server, right? It's like okay, so penetration testing is like being a hacker, but ethically, right? So you don't use your skills for committing crimes. But don't look. Don't give me that look. So there's it's supposed to be the two kinds of hackers. Ones are called the black hats, and the other ones are the white hats.
And then there's a gray hat.
I'm the pink hat. And and the black hats are supposed to be the bad guys, because they are always guys. And the white hats are supposed to be the ethical hackers. So that's what I do. I behave as a hacker, but for good reasons. Or I can be doing on-call, like incident response, and just like being at Saturday evening watching a movie, and then having to wake up and investigate that some guy in the internet is saying that he just hacked Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, right? So I had to go investigate, is he saying the truth, or that something happened to any of our servers, or it's investigation, basically. So it's a very dynamic job. You never get bored. There's always something new to learn, and the best thing for me is that there's always someone that is smarter than you. So you're never gonna get there, which in a way humbles you, and in another way, there's always something new to learn, which is the fun of it, right?
So I have a team of 40 people, but I joined Intuit as a BISO. And what a BISO is basically a business information security officer. I had decided to stop being technical and start making decisions and be a thought leader in the business. And I walked in with cloud security skills, and they were moving tax data to the cloud, and I became an instant technical fit, if you can imagine. And at Intuit, that allowed us to really start thinking our way through this problem space of what do adversaries mean. I now run a team of 40 people. I've got 5 technical teams. I've got some ladies that I've been coaching through this. My belief is that we need more women and diversity in our organizations. And so as a thought leader in this space, I've been really trying to invent more ways to build skills, bring people with us. A lot of my day-to-day work is very much that. Now, at the same time, my hobby and my sport at night is chasing down bad guys. So I like to flip my hat every day, from the executive hat to the hat of really helping my organization understand how to be adversary obsessed. And what I mean by that is I just became an innovation catalyst, and that's somebody who chases down customers to find out how to help them with their needs. If you can imagine chasing down adversaries and interrogating them, they don't really like to talk to you. So figuring out ways to have a nice survey and discussion with bad guys is kind of something that we've been working on. And as part of that, if you can imagine being innovative in this space, we've filed 40 patents. We've gotten 27 of them in this space. Innovation is part of it. We're basically coders who hack all day long every day. And we sit around tables and work with each other and figure out how to build skills constantly. So I think what's really interesting, as Soledad mentioned, she's never bored. I never find a day where I'm bored. I never find an uninteresting problem. There's always a puzzle to solve. If you're a puzzle master, you like chess, you like checkers, any of those games. My mom was an avid Monopoly player, and she used to crush me as a kid. And then she'd laugh at us and say, ha, 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 I got you. I think that's actually what turned me to the other side. side, right? I realized that I was going to need to be better at Monopoly, and now I crush her, ha ha ha. So, I think what's interesting about this space is there's a lot to be thought about. If you like to build software, you're very technical. This is an area for specialization that allows a lot of people to participate. Getting women into the room to talk about adversaries, if you can imagine, there are female adversaries out there that men just don't understand. And having you at the table is really critical, because as we advance and we do see more opportunities for some of the regulations to create blind spots, this is the part where you can help to say, let me interrogate that adversary, let me figure out how to put something in their way. Imagine basically creating deceptions. You're going to have a different set of deceptions than, say, the next person over in a table. And so that diversity is really necessary to help us to further our efforts.
So I'm a privacy advocate, but privacy isn't my day job. I think there are a lot of ways to get involved with causes that you care about. You don't necessarily have to be in the field. Like if you're interested in cybersecurity, you could be a white hat hacker and try to hack, Google or Facebook or whatever small company, and then email them and let them know. And oftentimes they'll actually give you some money for finding a vulnerability. That's pretty neat. So that's definitely a great place to start. Me personally, I do a lot of reading and researching. I noticed that a lot of people are not very educated about the topics of privacy and cybersecurity. So I've kind of taken upon myself to educate the general public and online communities. Especially in this day and age, people oftentimes don't feel a need to seek out information for a variety of reasons. Like sometimes it could just be overwhelming. I know as women, sometimes we're overwhelmed and intimidated by everything that's out there, and so we don't even start. So I try to eliminate that worry by writing articles that are very easy to understand, even if you're not technical, because I'm passionate about these issues and I think they really do matter.
All right. So we've talked diversity and barriers to entry. Did we touch it? Nah. Let's just quickly touch on that. We don't want, we want this to be a positive experience, but I think with any industry that's male dominated, there are barriers, similar barriers to entry. Have y'all experienced when you came into the field any of those?
Yeah, when I want to make a correction. I do get bored because I'm the only woman around. So that's boring as hell. I'm sorry. And the other thing, what I have noticed lately, I'm sorry. But you will experience the same if you were around women all day long. You know what I mean? There's some statistics that about women in tech, that they leave the field after about 15 years of being in the field, and I always saw that statistic as something far away for me. How come women leave, right? It's very bad, and I never understood it. Till I got to be in that position. It's 15 years of career, or now it's more. But I understood how women get drained, and it's very tough for us. It's not only the barriers at the beginning. It's along the way. It's how to get there, and then how to maintain yourself. You have to prove yourself every day, and that's a reality. You have to do a lot of things to get recognition. For example, I work 3 times more, right? Only to be seen, and you have to always fight for opportunity, right? And you're going to be always seen as the different person. It's a different culture, right? The way women do things is different. We approach problems differently. We have different points of view. So that's one of the barriers, right? There's another thing that I've seen, that is the competition. So we women don't compete the same way as men, right? So men will take everything as a competition, and to do it fast and show off, and they don't get mad to each other if they're competing like against them, and they just like go and rush and compete. And for women, I think it's more like about collaboration, teamwork, and being in an environment that you can just push forward together. And it's not about competing to get there first. So I think that's a barrier too, because you get in a field that is everything about competition, but you're not like that. So either you adjust or get like a little bit isolated. So it's kind of like difficult to navigate, I think.
So, it's interesting. I don't like the word barrier because I don't believe in them. I like the word opportunities. So when you're being blocked from something, it's just an opportunity. And it may be a harder, more aggressive opportunity depending on how much friction there is. The way I've taken my career, I don't think I'd be doing this today if I hadn't have overcome a lot of opportunities in my career. I took every crappy job there was when it came available. Like when somebody didn't want to rack a server, I'm like, I'll figure out how to rack it. I never got taught by somebody. I always got the opportunity in my lap, and thank God for the internet, because what's great is people write things down and they don't care who reads it. That's kind of cool, right? I like the fact that we have an open capability around open source. You can contribute, and the truth is that as I grew up, I learned one thing, and it was a really horrible thing, and I'm just going to disclose it to you, is that back when BBSs started, being a woman on the internet was actually really dangerous. And so you had handles. People would chase you down. They'd figure out who you were. They weren't nice people, and a lot of what was happening at that point in time wasn't necessarily all for good purpose. When you were actually on BBSs, a lot of things that were happening, there were a lot of drug sales. There were people on there that weren't trying to learn. They were doing bad things. And so back then you had handles. You had 8-character handles to protect your identity. I do believe in privacy because I was a woman growing up on the internet back when there weren't a lot of regulations. You didn't have the same things that you have today. Like, we actually are fortunate enough to have privacy protections for online environments. Back then, you didn't have them. And so, to me, it's all about opportunities. If you look at it as a barrier, you will be prohibited from doing so. But if you look at it as an opportunity, you'll be able to go far. And what's interesting about women is we can actually join up, collaborate, and go further together. That's something to consider, and I think that we actually have to do that on a daily basis. Find other people around you, figure out how you're going to move towards a mission, unite, figure out how they're going to teach you, and get the skills for them to be able to be more competitive. I don't compete with anybody other than myself, and that's my advice to everyone in the room, is compete with yourself every day and you'll do better. You'll do better than you ever expected. You'll look back a year later and realize that because you didn't compete with anybody else, you actually competed with yourself, you're going to actually advance your career that much faster. So to me, that's the real moral of the story. And like I said, for me, it's not barriers, it's opportunities.
And just to add to that, I think, and I don't know if you would agree with your personal lives, but initiative, like I was very initiative, like you. I'll figure it out. And I think that will go a lot further in our field. Also with analytical skills, I think, is big. So you don't have to be techie, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you about the barriers and the opportunities. I see it like you, but it's true that there are barriers. Like, not only, it's like even socially and culturally. So I am considered like a kind of like rare, like not normal kind of woman, right? Like, yeah, I don't know. So I think I'm very normal, right? I'm kind of common person, but I'm not considered like that. So sometimes it can tax you, right? It can tax a person to be considered like weird or what, especially young girls when they are in school. They are growing up, they don't have an identity created, they are not sure, but they are not sure. It can be a little bit taxing, and it can be a barrier. And it's the point, I think, where like many girls, they just reject computer science.
Well, I kind of touched on this already. Did you have something to add to that, Maria?
Yeah. I think you're right that your point was that when you don't fit in and you realize that you don't fit in like every second of the day, that is quite stressful. I remember, so I have my BS in computer science, and obviously most of my program was men, and we had a few female students around too, thankfully. But I just remember like at my internships and in classes, just always being somewhat aware that I'm a female in this group of males. And I never actually felt differently until I went to the Grace Hopper conference 2 years ago. And it was just crazy because there were, like 10,000 other female technologists. And for the first time ever, it actually felt like I fit in because I looked like these other people.
I think we could share the same stories. Yeah. It's pretty common. So I did touch on the skills a little bit, but what are the type of skills that we need in this field? Conventional and unconventional.
Completely unconventional. Show up, have something to say it. I always hear, and I hate this about some of the things that are said on the leadership front, is that we need to find a way to say the things that we say. Sometimes just saying them and having no filter is actually the more important thing at the time. And yeah, I've come out of the school of hard knocks. I'll tell you, nobody taught me leadership. I had to read every darn book out there. I've drank the Kool-Aid twice over, still didn't quite work. And what I found out was be yourself. Basically, the first part of building skills is be yourself. Then the next piece, analytical skills. You got to really figure out how you're going to analyze problems. Decision making. You won't go very far if you can't make good decisions and you don't have a decision framework. Like I can tell you, you can go build a bunch of skills on Coursera and get a bunch of technical junk. But if you can't figure out how to rationalize one technology over another, do the pros and cons, analyze those pros and cons, figure out what the right thing to do is for your business, have the supporting evidence, and be able to do that rapidly all day long, every day, you're going to basically build skills that allow you to do nothing more than just simply create a website. And I think that what I've seen all day, there's been folks in here that have done things like build businesses. The reason why they're successful is because they're able to make decisions. That is a simple, fundamental skill set. And by the way, there's not a lot of stuff out there that teaches it to you well. The day-to-day hard knocks of making good decisions, finding a collaborative network. I love these types of events because, by the way, the best thing you can do is knock into somebody here in the audience, make a friend, collaborate, connect, find missions together, and move things forward. Those are skills that are all soft, unconventional skills. I got people every day, I tell them, I will hire you for your passion, your ability to show up at work, and your ability to figure out how to make decisions every day, all day long, rapidly. And that's what I will ultimately promote you for, because along the way, you're going to learn these cool things called JavaScript and Java and Python and however many other, capabilities out there. And by the way, everybody's inventing new ones every day. We're never going to see somebody streamline and standardize technology anymore. It's just not going to happen. So your job now is to figure out how you're going to help solve customer problems and basically move those things forward.
So people, they don't show up to work? I'm so surprised.
What if you work from home? To add to that, I think
work from home.
Some people work from home.
To add to that, I think that curiosity is also so important, because I think curiosity will just persevere and last way longer than passion or interest, because passion definitely waxes and wanes, right? But curiosity, if that's what keeps you going, and if that's what keeps you learning JavaScript and whatever else, then I think that's it's definitely a great quality. Because with curiosity, you also get a willingness to learn, and that's so important in an industry where things move so fast.
Yeah, you read my mind. Curiosity is for me the biggest thing. and also willingness to have fun and being passionate about something. And what is the big, I don't know, what it keeps me going sometimes is like beating the guys, and getting there faster, and proving that for being a woman, you're not worst in tech. That's awesome. So we need more women doing that. So join us.
So
please.
with that being said, how can they get in? How do they get plugged in? Like, what's out there?
Well, Shannon is going to hire you all.
What are you looking for, Shannon? For example, that's a good
actually
example.
a really good question. What am I looking for? I start with passion. I think curiosity is a great answer too. But if you show up and you're just curious and you're basically pushing things around, it's just not enough for me. One of my interview tactics is I hand you a pen and a whiteboard, and literally it is a white, clean board. And I tell you, wow me. And there are some folks who can truly wow you in 1 hour. They can show you what the future will hold. They can paint you a picture. They have the confidence to figure out how to drive things forward. How do you get in? It's as simple as being able to fill out that whiteboard in many cases. We have internship programs, just like VMware has internship programs. We're on their campus today. Find your group, find your troop, and find people who inspire you. I ran after a man 20 years ago, and I've never regretted it. He was one of the best in my industry. He told a story. He gave me goosebumps. I chased him. I worked for him for 5 years as an apprentice, and I ended up having a lifetime career that really has truly gotten me up every day, passionate about what I do, and I haven't looked back since. And I'll tell you, it's probably just that simple, is find somebody out there that helps you to move things forward. There's tons of stuff. I mean, nowadays there's no end to the number of women's groups that are at your disposal, truly.
So what you were saying was sounding like mentorship. Find a mentor.
Mentorship. I think this is a great conference. Yeah, you can hold my mic. We've had a really good setup session for this. It's been lots of fun. But, honestly, find a lot of stuff. I'm definitely an advocate for Hacker Girl. There's Girls Who Code if you're interested in that. You can do cybersecurity. I'll tell you, there's not a lot out there yet, but I just got something that was super encouraging to me, which is the COO of Cybery.it sent out a survey yesterday asking why there were so few women in this industry. Answer those surveys, ladies. That's a good start. Find a way.
So, I mean, with this question, I think I would like to hear about you a little bit more. A little bit about your story and your organization.
Okay, real quick, guys. I am a true born geek. I'm proud of it. Quick story. So, my dad brought home I think a Commodore back in the day. It looked like a typewriter. I was like, what's that? So I learned how to use DOS and install games, which was my thing back then. Then I saw this movie called Sneakers back in the 80s, and it's Robert Redford and all those guys in it. And they basically, did social engineering, physical security. They were hacking computers to, get the bad guy. But I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a hacker. So fast forward, I went in the military, and that's when I professionally would say my career started in IT and IT security. But in every job I've had since then, actually, my first job in the military, I was a cook. But I had already knew some DOS and some Linux, so I told them I want to be the system administrator. That's where the initiative I was talking about came in. So I was the system administrator for the systems. I no longer was on the grill. So that's just a little nugget, is every time you come across an opportunity that you may or may not want to do, right? The fear of it, just do it. Like, Layla Ali said that. Just do it, because what's the worst that could happen? You fail, and really, failing is not bad. It's an experience. That's what Oprah said. So, yeah. So I've been in security ever since, and so the organization that I work with is called the Women's Society of Cyberjutsu. We're a nonprofit who, our mission is to help women get into and advance into cybersecurity. one of the things we do is provide hands-on, that's our niche. So it's not always, we mentioned soft skills, but we do hands-on training in all topics. We go to conferences together, so you're not like the only two women there. We've been there, right? Not fun. So we go to conferences together. We compete in CTFs, capture the flag competitions, study groups, that type of thing. We're a community platform for women for women that want to be in cybersecurity or are in cybersecurity. So,
well, I forgot about this one. I'm also the founder of another group that is called GirlsCanHack. So we do meetups, and also we are. I think I can talk, on behalf of the four of us. We are like always available. So if you need help or need some information, or you're trying to get in the field, shoot us an email, get us in LinkedIn or whatever, because there's actually only a few women out there that we have the expertise, enough expertise to help. So I think it's very important that we do help. So if you need information, we are always here.
And I think it's easier to come into cyber from tech versus a maybe not.
You can get into cybersecurity from any field at any time. I will tell you, do not be scared about it. You just got to find the right people to mentor you, coach you, give you the opportunity. You can go on Code School. You can go on Coursera. You can go on Udemy. You can start from anywhere. I have hired people writing books who didn't ever think they wanted to code. They code the best in my team now. I've got folks that were like artistic. It doesn't matter where you start. It's where you actually want to go to. Put your 5-year plan down. Tell yourself what you're going to be and find people to navigate towards that 5-year plan. That truly is the distinguishing factor between you sitting here today and you ending up 5 years from now sitting here today. I think we need more women who are basically able to start to revolve through these chairs. And the more of us that start to show up here, the better.
Leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership and management, that's what we need desperately.
Take those managerial positions, start to build other people every day.
And as to how to get your foot in the door, networking is the answer. Reach out to people and, see if you could grab coffee with them to pick their brains. The worst answer you could get is no, and the best answer you could get is a whole career out of it.
So let's pass it over to you guys and ask any questions that you may have. That was a lot to put in, 30 minutes, So do you guys have any questions? You know what? You guys have it.
Okay.
It's just that you guys mentioned about, getting into security. And if I can get your name right, you said
Soledad.
Solana?
Yeah.
Close?
Sole.
So how you made a change in your career? You were not really in security. So how did you feel like, making that move? The reason I ask is because I also stepped into security. I was always in networking. And I think the first 6 months I was very intimidated because I didn't know what pen testing was and, a lot of the terminologies. And I just got in because I was working with Splunk. And, Splunk was like what we were using as one of the tools. But I felt very intimidated, that I didn't know so much of security and I'm like a security engineer. So did you feel that, it was hard to make the move? Like it's super easy to get it because you're already in the tech field. But, and also from that point, how do you become like a top-notch security engineer? Like I feel I'm always looked up as like a network engineer who makes those decisions, but not from a security point.
Well, I think the way I changed to security has a little bit, it's related to how am I as a person? I studied computer science, but I had no idea about computers. So my first, year at college, I had to buy a computer, and it was like from scratch, everything, right? So I just jumped in. I was good at math and science, and I didn't want to be a teacher or a biologist or anything. And I was like, okay, oh, great, computer science. Do I know anything about this? No. okay, so that's what I'm going to do, right? It's out of curiosity. And then I become a software developer, and I was coding for day after day after day for like 8 years, and I got bored. And I thought it was a very static job for me. And I knew that there was that thing called cyber that nobody knew what. I'm talking about 10 years ago, where cybersecurity was not in the news. Okay, so people were not talking about it like openly like now, right? It's more in the consciousness of everybody in tech, especially. But 10 years ago, and in the past, it was like a totally unknown field. And for me, it was just like that. It was like an abstract thing, right? And I decided that I wanted to know what was that about. That's it. It's out of curiosity. And then I started studying that, and I decided to switch. I cannot tell you how did I do it, because now I don't even know. I was just bold enough to do it, younger maybe, and then I work very hard, right, to be in the position I am today. If you ask me 15 years ago, like, how do you see yourself? I would have never told you that I was going to be a cybersecurity engineer, like recognized or anything, right? That wasn't even in my like wildest dreams, you know what I mean? Yeah, but working hard.
So here's a dirty little secret. Cybersecurity is hard. There's nobody who's really perfect or gifted at it. It's perseverance. Start out with the fact that at your level, you're probably better than most. Don't have a confidence issue. I would tell you, like, the biggest issue coming out of most women in any group that I've seen is that we started off with thinking that there's always somebody better. Measure against yourself. Today, you're at one level. Tomorrow, you're at the next level. How much time are you putting aside to it? But I can tell you, I've done this for so many years. I used to compete against everybody else, and I finally realized that the real way to move forward and be great is measure against yourself every day. How many books are you reading? What are you learning? And oh, by the way, security is kind of down in the weeds. Pop up a little bit. What's the ultimate goal? Get rid of adversaries. Start there. If your work doesn't center around that, then you're missing the goal of cybersecurity, because that's really what it's about, is we're protecting and creating resilient software and workloads. So to me, that's the way to get really awesome. And to sit up here in one of the chairs is to realize that the secret ingredient is that no one's truly good at it. Otherwise, we wouldn't see breaches.
Any other question?
I have a question. You mentioned a lot about how women and men in the field, and I guess all fields, behave differently, and how I want to know what are approaches you all take to balancing the act of having to play the game and be able to be successful in this construct that you're not necessarily, it's not natural to you to be competitive all the time, but you still want to succeed, you still want to be able to get to management so that you can open the door for other people. But then how do you balance that with also staying true to, like, I should, wanting to change the game? You don't want to participate in it because you don't necessarily think it's the best way that it should be done. It's not necessarily the best behavior.
I've been struggling with this exact same thing. And I've actually been chatting about this with a lot more women because I'm fairly new to the industry, and I kind of feel like initially I took the approach of being a fighter, but after talking to a lot of women, they told me, play the game. You're not buying into it. Play it at first until you could get into a position of power. Then you could do whatever the heck you want, and you could change the industry once you're in power. Because that changes happen more easily from top down than from bottom up.
I have never played the game. That's good advice. I think I'm going to start doing it now. I don't know. I think, I struggle with that same thing every day. I haven't figured it out. I wish I had an answer, but I don't. I tried so many different things, and even being differently that I am, which is not worth it, by the way. Like, if you're not aggressive, you're not aggressive. If you don't behave like a man, don't behave like, you don't have to, right? But it's hard when you are trying to be yourself, but it's kind of like difficult, right? So I'll let you know when I'm figuring it out.
So I think staying true to yourself is, it's core to your principles every day. One of the things that's interesting about playing the game per se is sometimes you can reinvent the rules. I'm considered a culture hacker, a change agent. I'm willing to be fired for the right thing. It's hard, I'll tell you. They're willing to walk you in many cases. Over my years, I became better at getting it right. And so it allows me and affords me the ability to do the right thing, to help other people out, to really focus. But I think the essence of it has to come from what is right for your organization, what is right for the customer, what is right. And as long as you're driving towards that, no one can fault you for failing fast. I tell people who I mentor and coach all the time that you're never going to be 100% perfect. You just got to get up every day and feel passionate about what you do and drive forward. And if your goal is to become management and move things forward, that will eventually happen because you're going to have a 5-year plan. Like, I got to tell you, the biggest thing that's ever changed me, I got a 10-year plan. I'm going to change the industry. I am going to help us build resilient software if it kills me.
Marker words.
Some other...
No, I think there. Yeah, I second it. Okay.
Do you have any more questions? That's it?
I just want to acknowledge her question. I was going to ask a similar question, but I think you put it much better. So thank you for asking, and thank you for answering. I can see the contrast in the opinions here for some of you being able to handle it a certain way and figuring it out, and some have had the Kool-Aids and have figured it out. So this 5-year plan has come up like twice or thrice in the last 20 minutes. Can you tell us a little bit about how you went about your 5-year plan? Where would you start?
What do you want to see happen? I mean, one of your...
You don't need the...
I don't know. Can you guys hear me in the very back? All right, so I'm loud enough. All right, I'll try that again. So if you're building a 5-year plan truly, it's about what do you want to see yourself doing in 5 years, really envisioning that, putting that down on paper, and then chipping away at it. Like I told you, I have a 10-year plan. To me, it's really important we get to safer software sooner, software safer sooner, whatever you might like to say about it. To me, resilient software is required. There are people who could die from the software that goes into medical devices. We have cars with technology in them. There's going to be no shortage of software in everything that we leverage and utilize and that our kids leverage and utilize. To me, that was a driving and pulling force that gets me out of bed every day. And I got 2 kids. This is something that I do so that I'm helping to advance the industry. And I got to tell you, being away from them is hard, but it's such a mission. And I really want to be able to see that my children are going to be able to do this technology thing without having to think about being women in the future. And they're both little girls. So you can imagine that will drive a mom to do whatever it's going to take to make the world change. I just believe that if we all band together, your 5-year mission, my 5-year mission, we should compare notes, because if your 5-year mission sounds like my 5-year mission, we're a bigger army. All you got to do is find 2 people in your life that you're willing to take with you. Find 2 women, and I got to tell you, I got a half a dozen at this point. I'm going to bring more than 2 with me. You bring 2, I'll bring a half a dozen, maybe more. And eventually, I'm going to tell you, it will change just because of perseverance. I got one mentor who's told me the biggest thing that I've stuck to in my career, and it's been survival. Just survive. Move it forward every day and survive it, because if you do, you'll see it through. And that was amazing advice.
My 5-year goal is having margaritas at the beach, like in Spain. You want to do that?
We could do that.
Join me.
We could do that. I will join you. 5 years.
Can I come too?
We're 3. Do you want to join us? All right, I think we have a few minutes left if someone wants to ask something.
Any other questions? I love it.
So, hi, I'm Matt. I'm curious if you think of it from the other approach. If you want to create a great environment to have a team that is securing your products well, doing all the things that you want to create, and maybe that you've already created in your existing organizations and whatnot, what does that look like? What's the advice on that side of it?
So securing your products, what does it look like every day?
More from, if you want to create a great environment if you're starting to build your security team and you want to create a great environment where people like yourself and others come in and want to
Collaborate.
do the work and do it well, and not have the opportunities that you mentioned earlier, what does that look like?
Break down the walls. I legitimately pulled down every wall in our area. We have flat tables. We have people who do debates. We've organized around missions. And it doesn't create a world where people silo. People work together because they have the skill sets. They're willing to help somebody else next to them, leader, teacher. So even the people in my organization who just got there out of college have the ability to learn something and teach it. Have them do that. Inspire people to take on leadership opportunities even right as they come out and don't have the skills necessary to do so, because you'll build them faster. My belief is that in the first week of working with somebody, they should be able to knock something out and provide you an outcome, and you should be there to help them do so. So to me, it's not just being a woman in this industry, it's figuring out exactly how to create an environment where everybody can participate. We're all aligned around the mission. That's why the 5-year goals. It's why the mission teams. And it's truly why we started DevSecOps in the first place. Resiliency, chasing that, figuring out how we're ahead of adversaries is actually the mission in my mind.
I think for me, in order to build a very good security team, it has to be diverse, first of all, because we are tackling the most complex problems in the world right now, and it's not even about complexity; it's about the timing. You have to solve them. It's not only that they are complex; you have to solve them fast, the fastest that you can, right? Because you are competing. It's a question of time, right? It's a question of it's a race condition. So the more diverse a team is, the more different point of views and different types of approaches to solve the problems, the better the team is. So the cybersecurity teams in the industry and even in the government nowadays, they're very homogeneous. They are mostly men, and normally they're almost everybody is white man. It's a white man, and they think alike. They think the same way. They resolve the problems in the same way. They focus on the same things. And in my opinion, that makes a team weak. So I think diversity is a great point to build a good team.
Close it out.
All right. So again, Shannon, Soledad, and Maria, thank you for enlightening us, and thank you guys for joining us. We're around if you have any additional questions and if you want to network some more. So thank you.